Hi, welcome back to another episode of Supersonic Self-Love. I'm your host, Mary England of Uncustomary, and I am happy to be talking to you about something that I get asked about all the time when I'm on a panel. It's the thing that people ask me about. People email me about it all the time, and it's important. It is how to deal with your inner critic and negative self-talk. In this episode, I'm going to talk about what exactly an inner critic is, why we have one, tips on how to acknowledge negative self-talk, how to stand up to your inner critic, how to be compassionate with your inner critic, tips on how to transition into positive self-talk, the benefits of positive self-talk. I also have a awesome 5-page PDF worksheet for you that up until now was only available for Uncustomary Babe members, and you are getting it for free. So before we jump in, like always, I want to start off with our affirmation. I am drawing from a brand new spanking deck that just came out this week. It is Gabby Bernstein's deck, and it comes with her new book, Super Attractor. They're both called the same thing, and I recommend both of them. This is by far my favorite deck so far of hers. I'm not saying something, but the card that I drew says, my ability to receive is measured by how much I practice good feeling thoughts. Good feeling thoughts. I love how that is phrased like that. Good feeling thoughts. Feeling good thoughts. Feeling good feeling thoughts. When we are in touch and in control of our inner critic, showing ourselves love and engaging in positive self-talk, we are practicing feeling good, thinking good thoughts, and feeling good about those good thoughts. So that's really the ultimate goal of dealing with your inner critic and practicing positive self-talk. So this really is the perfect card. So thank you, Gabby. All right, let's jump in. What is an inner critic? Okay, so remember in the last episode how we talked about self-esteem and self-confidence, and how basically self-esteem is all about external experiences and how those shape you and how you feel about yourself. Well, those things that someone might have said to you 20 years ago when you were a kid, they can still hurt and influence how you act or how you feel about yourself. An inner critic is that voice that you hear in your head that's still repeating those words that you heard originally. It's that voice that doubts your decisions. It's that voice that tells you that you are not good enough. It is that voice that tells you that other people deserve that thing and you do not. It is that voice that tells you that you don't look good in that outfit and you will never pull those boots off. It is that voice that sounds exactly like that bully from middle school or your mom or a parental guardian who said something mean and it stuck with you and you still believe it might be true. It's the voice that spirals your worst fears and insecurities on repeat. It is the voice that tells you that you better not go after your dreams because you're definitely gonna fail. If that was a friend, would you want them in your life? That is some toxic ass bullshit. Isn't it? Like, if I had a friend who was constantly telling me that I was ugly, couldn't pull off my clothes, all of my decisions were questionable, and I didn't deserve to go after my dreams, I would tell them to hit the curb and not such like 1970s like quacky colloquialism. But that negativity is at its not finest but dirtiest, and we do not need those types of people in our lives. So why do we let this inner monologue run in our heads? We have to carry around our minds with us all day. It's 24/7. So if it's chatting at us, we're here to listen. We can't go in the other room. We can't leave the event that they're at. We can't ask them to leave our house. We can't unfriend them on Facebook. We have to face what is happening. There is no way out. 'Tis only through. Now, I'm going to tell you something that you might not want to hear, but this is tough love for self-love, which is self-love. Self-love is tough love. There is no magic button for making your inner critic be nice to you. I'm going to say it again. There is no magic button for making your inner critic be nice to you. I am not here to be a magic fairy godmother that presses reset. You can't really do that either, quite honestly. There are years of unlearning to be done, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to take years to unlearn those years of things, but this isn't an overnight solve. This isn't meant to be disheartening or daunting. I am just being real with you. Building self-esteem, practicing self-love, and working on your mental health are all long processes. Lifelong, really. And practicing positive self-talk is not unlike those. The good news is, like anything else, once you get a handle on it, it becomes easier and easier. Practice makes everything easier. But I don't want you to get discouraged that the first day that you try to tackle something this big and difficult, that you don't get immediate results. This is a practice that takes a lot of showing up, dedication, compassion, and acknowledgement without judgment. You can absolutely 100% do this, though. I believe in you and you can. So here we go. The first step is to simply acknowledge what you're thinking and that it's not positive. I know that might seem oversimplified or weird, but it's necessary. The problem is that we have gone years or decades or our entire lives listening to our inner critic, and that voice has become mishmashed with our own inner voice, our own inner monologue that's shit-talking us. Is like, who is who in here? Those are two different voices. There is a voice that thinks, I'm hungry, and then there might be a voice that follows up that says, you don't need to eat, swimsuit season is coming. That first voice is your natural voice responding to your body and life naturally. And that second voice is your inner critic, which has been conditioned to be mean to you. It is a bully, a mean girl, a bitch, and insecure as hell. So we need to recognize that there are two different voices happening, and that second voice is saying negative things. Just acknowledging that this is happening and accepting it. The same way when you're meditating, you just acknowledge that you're having monkey mind and thoughts are coming in and out, and you don't judge, you just know. Also know that you are not alone. Everyone has an inner critic. Everyone. There is no judgment in this process. Don't allow yourself to have added guilt and shame on top of these insecurities that we're already trying to unlearn and tear down. That's enough. Don't let yourself be like, I have an inner critic. That's horrible. We all do. So just allow that to be a baseline. Okay. We've done that. So now you need to figure out what these negative thoughts are. For me, I like to write them down because it helps me get organized and I can use them for the activity that I'm going to recommend to you in the near future. So it might feel like incredibly awful and negative to have them all written down on a piece of paper. And I get that. I understand you. I feel you. But you do need to somehow separate what your inner critic is saying about you, because later we're going to work on separating those thoughts individually and working with them. But for now, you just need to acknowledge that those are thoughts you are having individually and are coming from a separate place, a separate voice, and that you are prepared to unlearn them. Remember when I said that your inner critic is an insecure bully? That's real. What's the most effective method of dealing with a bully? Finding out why they are in pain and helping them. I love the story of Sarah Silverman, who was getting trolled on Twitter, and she had this incredibly nasty comment from this man, and instead of her coming up with something equally nasty or funny or witty or whatever to respond back with, she messaged him and said, "What's wrong? How are you?" And he responded back that he is broke and in a tremendous amount of pain. He can't afford to go to the doctor, and this is how he copes. He trolls people online. So she sent him money and set him up to go to physical therapy and counseling. In school, most bullies are dealing with pretty horrifying shit at home and are either repeating the behavior they see on their peers or taking out their aggression on anyone else. When you heal the wound, the bully ceases, in most cases anyway. One technique I have for myself is to name your inner critic. I named mine Lindsay. I'm sorry if your name is Lindsay and you're offended by that. I mean no harm. I've heard a lot of other people naming theirs Trump because it's easy to just tell Trump to shut the hell up. And for a long time, when a negative thought would pop up, I would say, "Shut the hell up, Lindsay." And lots of times that worked, and I was totally on board with this method of dealing, quote, with your inner critic. But more recently, I have taken a different approach with inner critics, which is to love them, treat them with compassion and kindness. To love them and show them love like the way that we would with our inner child that needs to be loved, because it is just a bully who went through the same shit we did and is dealing the way it knows how. It's seen the same stuff we have. It knows the same stuff we know. And what if instead of me saying, "Lindsay, shut up," I said, "Lindsay, I know you are upset. And we have been through hell. But you don't have to be scared. We aren't in danger anymore. We are safe. We are free. We are beautiful. We are loved. And we don't have to answer to anyone." Doesn't that feel better than "shut the fuck up"? So naming your inner critic is a really great way to develop a tangible connection and relationship to them, and making that inner monologue feel separate from your personal thoughts. Sometimes, though, it can be really hard to transition into positive self-talk. So if you need a resting place on the journey to positive self-talk before going straight there, you can try being neutral and observing your thoughts in a neutral, mindful, non-judgmental way and responding with just, "That's not true. I love myself." It can be that simple. The list of negative thoughts now comes into play, the one that I was mentioning writing down, because we are going to work with it. When we're dealing with insecurities, it is important to counter with logic. So what I recommend you do is make 2 columns on your paper, or use the worksheet that I have ready for you to download, where on the left you write the negative comment, and on the right you counter it with facts that are neutral and or positive. So for example, if your negative thought from your inner critic is, I am worthless without a significant other, you could counter that with thoughts and facts like, I add value to my community by participating in local cleanups. I add value to my friendships by remembering their birthdays. I add value to my job about being passionate with my clients. Or get even more like tangible, factual with it and say, when my friends are single, I still think they're amazing. Or there are a lot of benefits to being single, like I can make plans without checking in with anyone, or sleep like a star in the bed. Or just like another person is external and by definition cannot determine my inner self-worth. Stuff like that. So once you have gone through your journaling listing activity and now have logical responses for many of your negative thoughts, you're not going to have all of them, there's a lot, you are ready for positive self-talk. When you notice your inner critic saying something cruel and you want to counter that thought, you're going to do it with just at least one logical or positive thought, the same way that we did just with the journaling. So it's easiest to start off with that thought being in direct response to the thought that you had. So what I mean by that is, if your negative thought was about your body, your positive response would be about why your body is good, beautiful, helpful, etc. It wouldn't just be like a completely random positive thought. It is also extra beneficial, if you can, to not just think this thought internally, but to say it out loud if you're in a space where you're comfortable to do that, or alternatively, or in addition to write it down 3 to 15 times in a row on a piece of paper. Eventually, we want to build up from countering the negative thought from 1 to 2 to 3 thoughts. And these thoughts, as we grow, do not all need to be in direct response to the original negative, cruel thought that prompted this process. So if your negative thought, again, was about your body, the first thought you counter with might be about why you love your body. But the second thought might be, I have a great sense of humor. And then the third thought might be, I love that I live in a world where I can see rainbows. Examples of kinds of positive thoughts are like something that you are good at, or a skill you have, something you feel that you add to the world, a part of your body that you love, something you're grateful for, something you got to experience today, something you succeeded at, or just something awesome in your life. You know, when I was in cognitive behavioral therapy, I recognized that there were 2 parts of my brain. The regular Mary part of my brain that was, quote, healthy, and the OCD, quote, unhealthy part. And I had been listening to the OCD part because it was screaming louder. What I had to do was expose myself to my anxieties on purpose so I was comfortable with being uncomfortable, until that voice got quiet enough for me to be able to listen to the uncomfortable part. That doesn't mean those impulses don't come, or the voice doesn't whisper or even scream to me at times. But that's essentially what we're doing with this inner critic. An inner critic has been screaming over you for way too long. And what we want to do is basically practice drowning it out with positivity until it knows that it too is loved and living in a welcoming, loving, positive environment. It doesn't need to live in fear or be scared or insecure anymore. This is why I keep saying, quote, dealing with your inner critic. The concept of dealing means that we have to do something. We're drudging through it. And your inner critic is just a part of you that hasn't been loved or helped or hugged enough. And, you know, when we love it and welcome it and give it the nurturing that it needs, it will quiet down and finally be able to rest a little bit, because they have been screaming for years. And they could probably use a drink of water and a fucking nap. Remember that negative talk is not healthy. It is not something that keeps you in check. And it does not effectively help you to avoid narcissistic tendencies. And if you want to listen to more on the difference between narcissism versus self-esteem, please check out episode 7. Positive self-talk is not narcissistic, weird, or selfish. It's self-love. And you can always take your positive self-talk to the next level. You can use positive affirmations. You can make a list of your accomplishments. You can do mirror work. I'll post an article to I'll post a link to my article on mirror work, which is essentially just the act of saying positive affirmations to yourself in the mirror while making eye contact, which is actually extremely effective. This week for you, I have a really special PDF download. It's straight out of the Uncustomary Babes membership group. It's 5 pages long, and not only has a place for you to write down and counter your negative thoughts with positive ones, but tips, writing, it's packed full of stuff. Like, it's really, really great. I'm very excited. I can't wait for you to print it out and use it. Speaking of the Uncustomary Babes, I had so much fun with all the people that joined in October. And in there are over 300 positive affirmations waiting for you. Joe designs 5 new ones every week with the words that I make. And they are beautiful for social media posts, but you can also print them out, and they are just loving words that you can use for your positive self-talk, affirmation, or mirror work. If you want to sign up for Uncustomary Babes, it's just uncustomary.org/membership, and I would love to have you. I mean, if you enjoy Supersonic Self-Love, which is a free service, just imagine what you get for subscribing to the Uncustomary Babes. I would love to send you your membership card and expose you to this amazing group of people who are dedicated to personal development and self-love. And of course, the giant archive of wonderful resources that just keeps expanding, as does your own potential for growth. Your homework for this week for episode 8 on working with your inner critic is to, 1, acknowledge your inner critic and their thoughts as a separate entity from your own. Number 2, name your inner critic. And number 3, fill out the PDF worksheet. It'll actually walk you through all these steps. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Supersonic Self-Love on working and dealing with your inner critic. I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.